Welcome to Knowledge Valley Institute for IAS, IFS, IPS. Today's discussion is on Polity and Constitution from the Vision IAS, April 2020. We are going to do some topics today. The first topic that we are going to cover is Panchayats and Pandemic. So we are going to focus on polity in this lecture, and it is on Panchayat and Pandemic. So Prime Minister interacted with the Panchayats on National Panchayati Raj Day and lauded the local governments for their proactive approach to fight the crisis. So Panchayats play a very important role. So the Prime Minister met them on the National Panchayati Raj Day and lauded them for their approach to fight the crisis. And as we know, the COVID pandemic has brought the point of decentralization. So everybody needs to work on the ground. Let's see the introduction. As we know, Panchayati Raj was brought in the 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act. That is the 73rd and 74th Amendment Constitutional Amendment Act is important, of 1992-1993. It provides for endowment of powers and responsibilities. So this Constitutional Amendment Act gives a lot of powers and responsibilities. So first thing you must know that Panchayati Raj is the part of our constitution, and 73rd Constitutional Amendment Act 1992 talks of the village panchayat, and 74th is the urban local bodies. So these 2 points you should remember. 73rd in 1992. Many a times question is asked on this. With more than 3 million elected representatives, India's local government or Panchayati Raj are in the forefront of this fight against the pandemic. They are proactive in readying the infrastructure to treat people, to arrange massive movements for food grains, hygiene, social distancing at village level. So we know 3 million people, that is 3 lakh people, are there in the Panchayati Raj as representatives, and they are working on the ground today. Decentralized way of working is needed, and this was what our founding fathers and even the later leaders had thought when they brought in the Panchayati Raj system in 1992-93. So they are making ready the infrastructure, food grains, providing food, hygiene, health, and social distancing. They have emerged as bridge between the decision makers and the community. So many a times question is asked, what is the importance of the Panchayati Raj? So you can give or what was the importance of the Panchayati Raj during the lockdown or COVID-19. Some of the important points over here will help in mains. This is a part of GS paper 2, governance or programs, policies. So when the video conferencing was happening, the Prime Minister spoke of, or he launched 2 portals or 2 schemes, you can say. One is e-Gram Swaraj portal and Swamitva scheme. So many times questions in UPSC prelims as well as main, what do you mean by Swamitva scheme, or what is e-Gram Swaraj portal? E-Gram Swaraj will help prepare and execute Gram Panchayat development plans. The portal will ensure real-time monitoring and accountability. The portal is a major step towards digitization down to the Gram Panchayat level. So remember, E-Gram Swaraj is digitization to the Gram Panchayat level. And Swamitva scheme provides for an integrated property validation solution for rural India. Demarcation of inhabited land in rural areas would be done by the use of latest surveying methods, drones technology, with the collaborated efforts of Ministry of Panchayati Raj, State Panchayati Raj Department, State Revenue Department, and Survey of India. Swamitva scheme is demarcation of property, so it is more for the property validation. E-Gram Swaraj is digitization. So just remember. So till now we saw the background when the local self-government bodies came. What was the role of the local self-government bodies, and what is E-Gram Swaraj and Swamitva scheme? Now, role of panchayats in the pandemic, why it is so important, or what is the importance of the panchayats. So three things you must remember. First is they have practical consideration of local level knowledge. They have administrative consideration, so practical consideration, administrative consideration, and they have level of trust. So 3 points: practical consideration, administrative consideration, and level of trust. Let's see practical consideration. Due to their proximity, panchayats are usually the first point of contact. So they know the citizens, they are there on the ground, they are the foot soldiers. Second is community level engagement and dissemination of information. So they have a community level engagement. They can gain information and give information fast. So the state does not, or the center does not need to run here and there. They need to just give it to the Panchayati Raj. They will give to the local people. Additionally, tracing individuals. We know in social distancing, COVID-19, tracing people is a biggest challenge. So they know the people, they can trace the people. Panchayat are the eyes and the ears. So this is the practical consideration of local level knowledge. They know the local level. So just remember, role of panchayats can come in your questions. You can answer. So they are the first point of contact, engagement, and then you have local tracing, and then eyes and the ears. Administrative consideration. They are the nodal point. They are the lowest level point for the people. They can reach the people directly. 2.6 lakh rural local bodies, 10 lakh ASHA and ANM workers. They can deliver the welfare. No person is left behind. So we can reach each one in our country through the Panchayati Raj. So that is the administrative advantage. So we saw what is the practical advantage. They are there on the ground. They are the eyes. Now we are seeing the administrative advantage. Administrative advantages. They have the power to reach the people directly and see the numbers. By heart these numbers. 2.6 lakh rural local bodies will help you in your mains and essays, etc. 10 lakh frontline workers. Reservation for the women is there in the Panchayati Raj, and this helps the women self-help groups also who are engaged in the fight against COVID-19. So administratively, Panchayati Raj is important in this manner. So practical consideration, administrative consideration, and the level of trust. Since they are working on the ground, they enjoy a lot of trust. The Panchayati Raj represents the quintessential community, a comparatively higher trust in the local governments are there by the people on this Panchayati Raj. So 3: practical consideration, administrative consideration, and level of trusts. So we saw the background, we saw why Panchayati Raj is important in COVID-19. We saw the two portals or two schemes. One is eGram portal and Swamitva scheme. Now some more points. Panchayati Raj institutions fighting at the forefront. How can we see them fighting at the forefront in the COVID-19? So health ministries micro plan for containing local transmission of coronavirus. So this is an important thing which the health ministry has brought in. Micro plan. We can't have the prime minister and the council of ministers handling everything on the top. We need decentralization. We need to locally plan. We need to micro plan. So this was the micro plan, and as you know, since it's micro plan, Panchayati Raj officers or the lower level officers are the most important. Allowed the panchayats to use the earmarked funds under the 14th Finance Commission. Constitutionally, sanitation is the function of the local government. So we know in the Article 243, sanitation is part of the local government. Questions again in prelims. Sanitation is important function of which government? That's the local government. Okay, and panchayats, they play as a nodal agency for coordination, as we had seen, for reaching down the people. So micro planning is needed, and sanitation is the function. Okay, now let's see how various states have worked. Kerala. So Kerala has a long history of decentralization. We have seen during the pandemic one of the best state which has worked is Kerala, and we always talk about the Kerala model. Now Kerala model without local self-government is not possible. So it has a long history of decentralization. So panchayats in Kerala are the forefront in coordinating in tracing, organizing health checkups, sanitation, social distancing messages, and others. So if we notice, the local self-government has been at the forefront here. Third of Kerala's plans have given funds to panchayats. So third of Kerala's plan funds have gone to the panchayats. So they are giving a lot of money. It's not only the function. So you must remember 3 F's: functions, funds, and functionaries, people. So if you see, these points are based on that. So you have functions, you have funds, and functionaries, the Kudumbashri system, wherein the women are in the forefront, women self-help groups collaborating with and yet holding to account the latter for their performance. So this is Kerala: functions, funds, and functionaries. Then we have Odisha. In Odisha, the sarpanches with the powers of a district collector to impose quarantine at a village level. So functions have gone, power has gone. Decentralized way of tackling pandemic. In Odisha also, they are following this. Sarpanches are given the power of district collectors. Then we have Andhra Pradesh. Village level volunteers have helped survey 14.1 million of the 14.3 million household. Just imagine, survey which is very important in Andhra Pradesh is helped by the village level officers. They have conducted a survey to help the state trace people with travel history to foreign countries. Now, village level volunteer system. So we were talking about Andhra Pradesh and we were talking about the village level volunteer system and how good they have worked. So let's see what is the village level volunteer system of Andhra Pradesh. Under the system, a new village department of Gram volunteers have been formed. Gram volunteers or ward volunteers. Each village secretariat has been set up for the population of 2000 and each volunteer is paid 5000. So this is how the village volunteer system has been placed, and that is why Andhra Pradesh is so successful. 14.1 million have been surveyed. Each volunteer is paid 5000 and there is a village secretariat. Rationale for creating such a system. Why did we need such a system? The system of village level volunteer system was created to ensure better delivery of various benefits. So better delivery, to give them the welfare schemes. The volunteers coordinated and implemented government welfare programs more than 11,000 villages. The system indirectly creates employment, accessibility and accountability, and decentralization as well as capacity building. So just remember these words, very important. So employment, accessibility, accountability, decentralization, and capacity building. Way forward, how we need to put more power to the Panchayati Raj system. So first is, we have given them a lot of functions, but yet we are to give them funds and the functionaries. The starting point could best be entry 23 of 11 schedules. So just remember some schedules here: entry 23 of 11 schedules and entry 28 of 11 schedule. By heart it. Sometimes question can come. Health, sanitation, hospitals, primary health centers and dispensaries are in which entry in the 11 schedule? 11 schedule, we know there are 12 total schedules. 11 schedule describes about the Panchayati Raj powers, and entry 23 talks about health, sanitation, including hospitals, primary health centers and dispensaries. And entry 28 of the 11 schedule, that is the PDS, public distribution system. Both are part of the Panchayati Raj. Both have been given to the Panchayati Raj. So funds and functionaries also need to be given. The most important requirement is planning to receive the major migrant labor influx. So today we have the migrant issue. So Panchayati Raj institutes need to be given more power so that they can handle this. Last mile delivery can only be comprehensively ensured by empowering the Panchayati Raj and municipalities reporting to their respective Gram Sabhas and Ward Sabhas mandated under 243A and 243S. Planning for withstanding the ingress of COVID-19 requires full deployment of mechanism for district planning envisaged in Article 243D. So planning is needed and district planning committee is important. So just to give you in 1 minute, what did we cover? So we covered what is the Panchayati Raj system, its background, why is it so important, what is the role it is playing. We covered two schemes, E-Gram Swaraj and Swamitwa scheme. Then we saw the role of the panchayats, that is practical consideration, administrative consideration and level of trust. We saw what is the Panchayati Raj doing, how is it tackling the COVID-19, that is decentralization. They act as nodal agency. Then we saw how the states are tackling. We saw Kerala's important funds, functionaries and functions. We saw Odisha, Andhra Pradesh. Andhra Pradesh village volunteer system, 5,000 being paid every month, per month, yes. And finally way forward by giving them funds, functionaries and functions. Functions are given entry 23 11 schedule and entry entry 28 11 schedule. All these are important. And finally part of the district planning committee. In the last discussion we saw the role of Panchayati Raj institutes. Now we are going to see the role of civil society in time of crisis. Now what do you mean by civil society? So see the definition, so which is very, very important. The World Bank defines civil society organization as a wide array of formal and informal organizations, community groups, NGOs, labor unions, indigenous groups, charitable organization, faith-based organization, professional association and foundation. These are all part of civil society organizations. So everything done by the civil society, everything done by the citizens outside the government is called as the civil society organization. Again, I'll repeat, it is the community groups, NGOs, labor unions, indigenous groups, charitable organizations, faith-based organizations, professional associations and foundations. Now why is this civil society organizations so important? During the time of COVID-19, we had seen the contributions which was done by the civil society organizations. Okay, so let's see why civil society organizations are so important first, and then we will continue our discussion. The numbers over here are not that important. It is just so that you understand why it became so important. Don't have to by heart it. Won't be useful in your answers. Just some small numbers. On 7th April, out of approximately 84 lakh people who were given meal, 54 lakh were actually given by the civil society organizations. Okay, so 54 lakh was by the state, 30 lakh was by the NGOs. State-wise data shows 13 states, in the 13 state NGOs outperform state governments. So they are doing much more better. Overall, 9 states and UTs where NGOs fed more than 75% of people. Relief shelters were run by the NGOs. Relief shelter was run by the NGOs. 39.14% are staying in the camp set up by the NGOs. In Maharashtra, 83.56% camps were set up by the NGOs. In Meghalaya, this was 95%. So much of work done by the civil society organizations. So just remember this, and that is why civil society organizations are very important. Now, Empowered Group chaired by CEO Niti Aayog. There was an Empowered Group which was set up by Niti Aayog to use civil society organizations. In the time of COVID, as I had told you in the Panchayati Raj wala, our discussion also, that civil society organizations are very important for the decentralized planning and working of our COVID-19 fight. Okay, so let us see why this civil society is so important. It helps in mobilizing and channel resources. They have strong relationship with the communities and ready pool of volunteers. As the Panchayati Raj, it helps in mobilizing and channeling resources. provides immediate relief. Civil society can serve as first responders. Okay, so we can get the resources, they can give relief, they help in providing shelter, extending support for distribution of PPEs, setting up camps, identifying hotspots. They also helped in the crisis of the mass exodus of migrant laborers. And how did they help? By giving them care, quarantine, and treatment. Okay, so the first point that we saw was mobilize and channel resources. Second point is provide immediate relief, that is by providing shelter, PPEs, health camps, hotspots, and looking after the crisis, which was the migrant laborers. Awareness campaign is another point which is important. Work done by the civil society organization, develop communication strategy, and finally holding governments accountable. Okay, so there was an RTI which was done by the civil society organization to ask how these PM Care Fund is utilized. So just remember the work. Again, I'll repeat it, by heart it. So first is mobilize and channel resources. Second is provide relief. How provide relief is by providing shelter, extending support of PPEs, setting up health camps, identifying hotspots, mass exodus of migrant laborers, running awareness campaign, developing communication strategies, holding governments accountable. Now we have seen the positive points. What are the challenges which are being faced by the civil service or civil society organizations? First is concerns related to their accountability. So they ask for the accountability of the government, but who will make the civil society organizations accountable? Second is access to information. Lockdowns prevent physical access to information which was previously available from work and educational institutions, library, etc. More lack of digital connectivity along with restrictions on internet does not allow the civil society organizations to get information. This can hamper their work. So first is the accountability, second is they are not getting information. Third is gaining momentum for civic initiatives is difficult, and restrictions of movement. So all these hampers the work of civil society organizations. So remember challenges: accountability, information, gaining momentum for civic initiatives, and finally restriction of movement. Now what are the opportunities? Potential to increase legitimacy of civil society through building broader participation. So they can improve their work by broader participation. Potential for widespread engagement. So they are working on the ground, so they can engage with people. Participation can be increased. Building new alliances by good communication structures. By good communication structures, they can build new alliances. It can also help them, by building new alliances, it can help them to break down the silos and get new synergies. They can break down the compartmentalization of the work. There are a lot of hurdles, so they can break down that hurdles, create new synergies. People can come together, organizations can come together. Exploring platforms for digital civic engagement. So as said, adversity leads to opportunity. So digital can be used, untapped resources can be used, and digital participation can be brought in. For example, in the UK, Frontline PPE provides information about availability of personal protective equipments. In Spain, Fren La Corva publishes requests for help to or offers to collect food or medicine. So this is how the civil society organizations have played a role. So there are opportunities, there are challenges, there is the role of the civil society organizations. And finally, conclusion. The United Nations has referred the civil society as the third sector, very important third sector. So first is the government, second is the private, and third is the civil society organizations alongside with the government and private business. In such testing times, CSOs have emerged as a key supporting partner. They have helped in widening the reach. Going forward, keeping in mind their potential, there is a need to institutionalize the way they interact with the state. So this can be your mains conclusion: institutionalize. And this not only will increase their legitimacy but also will pave the way for even deeper and wider cooperation. The next topic of discussion is ordinance to protect health workers. Now, you must have seen in this time of COVID-19, there was a lot of attack on the health workers. So there was a demand for an ordinance to help these health workers who were the frontline workers who were saving us. They are the real heroes, but they have been attacked. So there was a demand to protect them. So the president promulgated an epidemic diseases amendment ordinance 2020 to amend the Epidemic Disease Act. So Epidemic Diseases Amendment Ordinance 2020 to amend the Epidemic Disease Act to protect health service personnel and property, including their living or working premises. So you must have seen in many complexes or flats they were not allowed. So what was the reason for what was the need for bringing such an act? So the first was there was no stringent laws. Several states have enacted special laws to offer protection to doctors and other medical personnel in past. However, the penal provisions were very mild. There was no strict laws which was there. It was not strict enough to deter mischief mongering. They generally do not cover harassment at home and workplace. So this law needed a comprehensive coverage to help the health workforce. Low health literacy in population perpetuated by myths and false beliefs led to failures to understand the rational view. Misconception in society, lack of adequate security. So we had seen in the hospitals many people hitting the health workers. Health officials are very important. They save our lives. Like we have the Jawan, like we have the Kisan, we also need our health workers, which are very, very important. So what was the need? There was no stringent laws, low health literacy, and lack of adequate security. Now in the ordinance, what they have done is first they have defined what is the meaning of health worker. They have defined the act of violence, and they have given the punishment. So three things, remember: definition of the health worker, act of violence, and punishments. Let's see all of them. First, definition of the health service or the health workers. So the ordinance defines health service personnel as a person who is at risk of contracting the epidemic disease while carrying out their duty. It includes any public and clinical health service providers such as doctors, nurses, paramedical workers, community health workers, any other person empowered under the act to take measures to prevent the outbreak of the disease. So who is a health worker according to the definition in this ordinance? So it is any person like doctors, nurses, paramedical workers, community health workers who are there in front to prevent the outbreak of disease are considered to be as the healthcare service personnel. Any person declared as such by the state government by notification. Now this is the definition that who is the healthcare service personnel. Now act of violence. What is the act of violence? Harassment impacting living or working conditions, harm, injury, hurt or danger to life, obstruction in discharge of duties, loss or damage to the property or documents of the health service personnel. So just see how comprehensive it is. Now what are the punishments? The violence is punishable with imprisonment between 3 months and 5 years, 50,000 to 2 lakh rupees and compounded by the victim with the permission of the court. In case of grievous harm, it is punishable with imprisonment between 6 months and 7 years and fine between 1 lakh and 5 lakh rupees. These are cognizable and non-bailable. So very important, cognizable and non-bailable. Compensation: persons convicted of offence under ordinance will also be liable for compensation to the healthcare service personnel whom they have hurt. So first they will be liable for the punishment, that is the payment and the imprisonment, plus they have to compensate to the healthcare service providers also. Investigation will be done by the rank of a inspector. Remember, rank of a inspector, investigation will be done, and the investigation have to finish in the 30 days. So very important, FIR has to be registered as soon as possible. Trial: the inquiry of the trial should be concluded within 1 year. So when the FIR is done, investigation should be completed in 30 days and trial to be completed in 1 year. If it is not concluded within this period, the judge must record the reasons for the delay. However, the period may be extended for more than 6 months at a time. The burden of proof falls on the guilty. So just remember, so we saw who are the healthcare service personnel, we saw what are the violence, we saw what is the punishment, and why there is a need of such laws. So just remember, so the ordinance, if it comes in the question, Ordinance 2020, that is Epidemic Diseases Amendment Ordinance 2020 to amend Epidemic Diseases Act 1897.